With us, this is the South African Morning. Good to have you back. Let's take you through this. South Africa has been dealing with the thorny subject of land appropriation for the longest time. This Human Rights Day, we explore why divorcing human rights from land rights would be a betrayal of the liberation struggle. Vumelana Advisory Fund Chief Executive Peter Setou joins me now to unpack some of the concerns around land restitution and the need to address the matter with caution, yet at a faster pace. Mr. Setou, thank you so much for your time and good morning to you. Happy Human Rights Day to you. You're here to take us through this important conversation. Divorcing human rights from land rights would be a betrayal to the liberation struggle. Why is this so in your view?
Thank you, Tumelo, and good morning to your listeners. Today is celebrated as Human Rights Day in South Africa. Now, it really focuses a spotlight on the need for us to continue advancing human rights. You would all recall that the Land Act of 1930 really was the final step that stripped a majority of our people, majority of South Africans, the land. And we need to, as we commemorate this day, be mindful of the fact that this commemoration really would sound hollow to majority of South Africans who are still battling to get land restituted to them, who are still really yearning to be given land so that they can get involved into productive activities.
You also say we need to implement, this the land restitution with more caution. Yes, with speed, at a faster pace, however, with caution. Where should the caution be taken into consideration here?
Well, the reality is at the point when land is given to our people, they don't always have access to finance, they don't always have access to markets, they don't always have, sometimes the technical know-how to run some of these businesses. So it is important for us to do assessments before we can actually hand over the land to our people, primarily to identify those areas where we need to give them support. And at the point of transferring the land, we must have done this assessment and primarily make sure that we can give them or provide them with post-settlement support so that they can use their land productively. So it's pointless really just pushing whilst the land lays fallow. We know that the bulk of the land that has been transferred thus far remains unproductive. And I think we need to really try and address that. And one of the things that we are advocating for is there is the need to bring the private sector into the equation, because there's a huge demand on the government fiscus. For us to expect that government alone can resolve some of these challenges, which are well documented, I think we'll be dreaming. It's important that we must bring the private sector on board because they've got the technical know-how, they've got access to finance, they've got access to markets. And based on our experience as an organization, our experience has been that there are well-meaning entities and private sector operators out there who are really willing to partner with communities.
Right. It's not only land rights that you speak about, Mr. Setou, as I understand, it's also water rights. You also acknowledge the fact that there's still a gap that needs to be filled when it comes to water rights, particularly it's still remaining in the hands of large commercial farmers. How do you think the issue around water rights and land rights together can be, of course, addressed? Well,
the whole concept of water as a right found its expression in our constitution. So water and land, on the one hand, they are very much interconnected. So, but the reality is, whilst these resources are relevant for sustainable development, they've been managed differently and they've been managed in silos. We know that in many projects, especially land reform projects, where people got their land back, etc., a lot of projects actually fail because water is not available. This points to the notion that the synchronization between water allocation on the one hand and land reform must be improved, i.e. we need to ensure that at a point when the land is actually transferred to the beneficiaries of land reform, simultaneously, water use rights are also allocated to those beneficiaries.
All right, well, we'll have to leave it then. I appreciate you speaking to us this morning, Mr. Peter Setou, of course, Chief Executive at Vumelana Advisory Fund. That's the Chief Executive there. Thank you for your time and acknowledging, of course, this important issue around land rights, land reform and water rights as we continue to commemorate Human Rights Day today.